10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Mars4 development sneak peek. I have two cool things to show you today. Sorry, get comfortable. There we go. Awkward opening. First of all, I guess you guys probably guess it by the title that I have some cool multiplayer footage to show. So we'll jump into that in a minute. No, we'll jump into it right now. I have nothing else to say. Oh, wait, whoops. Started halfway through. So this was just myself and some of the other engineers. Judas was one of them. I think he's the one toggling his flashlight on and off, despite it being daytime. And we were testing some of the vehicles working in multiplayer. However, there's much more than just vehicles working in multiplayer. Well, in development still. There is still plenty of Q&A left to do. As you can see, there are still a couple bugs here with suspension system, but there is a lot more to see. So, as you can see, there is a lot going on here. Not just the multiplayer, but a series of other features that we've been added recently that you guys will get to play with quite soon. One of the first questions I see people asking is when will the first version of multiplayer be released? The first version will be out before summer. And then we will be continuing to add more functionality and features to it as is laid out in the in our roadmap, where it looks like we're a bit ahead of schedule actually on multiplayer. So the first versions may have the first versions may be server based instead of just co-op, which means there's a lot more we can do earlier in terms of linking things to the MCC and so forth. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The video does the talking. There's nothing else I really need to say. I'll talk about some of the other stuff that's going on in the video. So as you guys will have noticed around here, the productivity system, how we've tied it into the 3D game, the land productivity score is in the top left of this land that the player is currently playing on. And as you saw here, there we go. Based on your productivity score, as it progresses on the land, you get access. The owner and assigned players on the land get access to different tiers of gear and other equipment and unlocks. This is both going to be how we deal with the tutorial, and also by the tutorial, I mean like gating new content and stuff. So as you see, the first drop you get is a pickaxe, a better pickaxe than the one you're starting with. And the plan here is the first drop is the pickaxe at 0 productivity. So like the first step in the tutorial would be at 0 productivity, call down a pickaxe, and like that gives you your first bit of gear. You go mining, exploring, building, productivity goes increasing, you go unlocking more equipment. And this will be player independent, but how much stuff you can unlock on the land is based on the productivity score. So this gives another value to having higher tier lands and stuff like that, because the access to drop pod equipment, not necessarily what you can craft, but what you can call in, depends on the productivity score of the land you're on. So, excuse me. Also, in addition to the we don't actually have a name for it yet. Big and small drop pods is what we call them. The row on the bottom that you're seeing here, that's what we've been referring to internally as the big drop pods, which are tiered based on the land's productivity score. And then what we've been calling small drop pods, obviously needs a better name, or mini drop pods, sorry, is in the top left. Every X amount of productivity. At the moment, we've been playing around with 25, but that will definitely change. You get a mini drop pod, which has some random stuff in it. Maybe it's some resources, maybe it's some equipment, maybe it's anything. And these mini drop pods add kind of a bit of reward to exploration and stuff, because you're not sure where they're to drop on your land. When one is ready to be claimed, you can claim it. You'll probably see it coming through the atmosphere to land, but you will need to search out and find that. And that gives a little like break to the building and mining and other things you're doing. You'll see those mini rewards, mini progression rewards coming through on a regular basis as you're playing. I think that's the main feature you guys haven't seen yet, other than the multiplayer. So, starting into some of the questions that we've gotten, Max Cooper asked, will all participants be able to use these buildings, or will there still be rights and restrictions to ownership? So there will be, through the stages of development of multiplayer, there will be changes and expansions to that. The first version of multiplayer will probably not include any building restrictions, but that first version also is not persistent. There will still be resets and stuff like that. That first version probably will not have any restrictions, and then we'll be experimenting with different ways of restricting things. The two ways that I think we'll probably end up doing, but based on community feedback and playtesting, is land plot totems, basically. So an item that if the landowner says you're allowed to build here, they will give you a land plot totem. And that will have a radius around it. And that the player will take that totem and place it, and that will belong to them. And it means that within that totem's range, only they can build. And that, and then secondly, doors and chests and machines and all of that can be locked with like a keypad lock, and also locked to your player character. Those are the two ways that I think we'll probably end up doing restricting. But as I said, depends on, well, if you guys like how those systems work. The totem system, I think, has a lot of potential, as it's something people who play Rust and stuff like that may recognize those kinds of concepts. So that's what I think is probably the most tried and true method. The thing that I don't like about the totem system, which is kind of a pet peeve, but because it's a single point that you place and then there's a radius, that inherently means that your building area is round. And that messes with my OCD. I would much rather people add square plots. But at the end of the day, I think that the community would rather us invest development time into other additional features than trying to come up with some like square plot grid system, which would be a lot more work. I think that the totem system will probably like the best balance between development time and players' needs. Is the current gas fees for vehicles fixed, or will it fluctuate based on Mars4 pricing? That I do not know. That's outside of the game development department area. Sorry. Join our Discord if you're not already on it. Ask it there, and there our marketing and finance teams will be able to answer your questions. We also have a series of questions that people have asked on Discord. To those, someone says, I see a huge marketing campaign going on Twitter. Will this campaign continue? I don't know the answer, Lars. As I said, that's outside of the game development sphere. That's what I know. However, once again, those questions you can direct to our Discord or our Telegram groups, and someone will be able to address it there. Super Six asked, allowed land. Will landowners be allowed to promote or add other users to their team? Yes. However, how exactly? I don't think it'll be structured so much in terms of teams, but more just a matter of the landowner has access to the land governance interface, and they can assign different levels of rights and responsibilities to players. That will be coming in a far later stage of what do I call it, of the multiplayer implementation. So before I dive into the questions on Discord, as there's quite a few, I also wanted to announce that we will be I would like you guys to throw out some of your ideas and wishes, things that you would like to see in the multiplayer version of the game, things that you would like us to test out and see what the community think of them. So everyone is asked to copy. No, that's the wrong line. Yeah, ideas from Mars4. I am posting. So I'm posting a link right now in all of the chats to the Ideas for Mars4 channel in our Discord, and I would love if all of you throw out your ideas. What are the things that you would like to see in multiplayer? And we will be giving away some building blueprints for the MCC to ideas that we think are interesting, entertaining, funny, even stupid ones. Like, throw out your ideas. At the end of the day, there are no bad ideas, and we just want to get everyone talking about what kind of experiences each one of you would like to have. And it doesn't necessarily need to be along the lines of stuff we've already discussed and already developing. It can be anything. If you want to, I don't know, hunt down aliens and use their carcasses to build little bone huts and ornaments to do voodoo magic to curse other colonists. Whatever it is, whatever your ideas are, feel free to share them there if there's something you genuinely would like to see in the game. And yeah, there's a very good chance that you will get some building blueprints out of it for the MCC. So with that, let's move on to some of the questions on Discord. Once again, although I'm going through these questions now, you're always welcome to ask questions in our Discord server, and you'll often find me and other team members there answering them anytime. Will the players be able to promote anything they want in their buildings? For example, if I create a 3D building and I wish to place a link for certain products on Amazon, affiliate marketing, my YouTube channel, etc., etc., etc. Yes, asterisks. At the moment, we have no plans to restrict what people can promote on their own lands. But logically, there is some extremes that we may want to police. But yeah, basically, yes, asterisks. At this stage. Regarding access to my lands, will I, as the owner, have an option to accept or decline someone access? Yes, however, that would come at a later stage in the land governance UI. And what it probably wouldn't be you accepting or declining a specific person, because that would mean you would need to be around all the time to do that. It would be you set up that either anyone is welcome or only a whitelisted group of people are welcome on your land. And then you would have people whitelist, and then if they wanted to try and enter your land, they weren't on that whitelist, they would not be able to enter. Right, access building, will I be able to accept or decline anyone? So same question, will they be able to enter buildings in that way? Yes, we'd probably reuse we will initially be reusing a similar whitelist style system via the land governance menu. How people allow non-landowners who have building permission on a land, how they allow and manage other people being able to enter their buildings and stuff will probably be by a secondary group interface kind of thing, or by maybe just giving out the code. Although I don't like codes because they can theoretically be brute forced. It's actually a funny story. When I was playing DayZ, like super early on, no, that was the Arma 3 version of DayZ. I was playing it one time, and I was just running around, and I walked past a big garage, and I saw it was locked. It was owned by a player, so I just ran up to it, just randomly put in a 4-digit code, like obviously 1337, and it unlocked the garage, and I just raided their entire base. Just they put their base code as 1337. So I'm not a big fan of that idea. But anyway, small quips aside. What's the idea of connecting MCC resources and 3D game resources? Will we first need to create some kind of warehouse to store them in? Will resources just be delivered into your inventory by magic? Will they be dropped in a pod from space? Will it cost Mars4 gas fees for the team to deliver them from the MCC to 3D game? There is multiple ways that we plan on experimenting with this. One of the main ones is building a specific warehouse type building or vault, where anything that's in the vault is seen and interacted with on the MCC. That's kind of a more open-ended system, because ideally whatever system we build to move resources between MCC and the 3D game, we want to be able to support more than just resources. So that, because remember, the point of the MCC is to deal with a lot more of the strategic side and more economic sides, so the larger scale economic side. So stuff like trading, renting, marketplaces, etc. we want to be happening on the MCC. And in the game, you just open up a link to the marketplace on the MCC instead of building two separate marketplaces. So we'll experiment with a few different options, but at the moment, the one that I foresee is probably going to be the most successful is some sort of vault building that you construct, and then anything you put in there shows up in the MCC, and vice versa. Anything in the MCC that you put into your vault shows up in the 3D game. Will we have an interface where we could see if our in-game friends are online? Yes, it won't be in the first version of multiplayer, but we will be adding in something like that. Will there be an introduction of weapons turrets that would shoot at players that we don't want on our lands or against some enemies? No. We haven't said anything officially about it yet. If that's something you would like to see more of, more combat, gunplay, defending one's land against other players, or generic AI enemies and stuff, post that in the ideas section. How would you like to see that working? Because at the end of the day, we're building this game together, and if a lot of the community wants something like that, then we'll look at how to build that in a way that all the community are interested in. Will we be able to share resources between players? Yes. In the 3D game, it's as easy as just dropping resources and handing them to the other player, or putting them in a chest for them to pick up later. And this once again falls into how people access each other's buildings and each other's chests, etc. Will there be blueprints for the 3D game that multiple players could work on together? For example, collect 15,000 iron, silicon, and aluminum to build one blueprint of a space station dish array. Yes. Yeah, just yes. Currently, we already have some systems designed for that. Nuclear reactors are one of those things where they're a very high tier power generation system, but they require a lot of resources to build in multiple stages, and it's assumed that multiple players would need to be working together to build one to power a land or a small town on a land. Just skipping through questions that I've already answered already. Are the effects of the buildings on the MCC also valid in the 3D game, such as resources mined, fuel efficiency, success chance? No. As I've discussed before, the MCC mining and exploring is meant as a simplified representation of what the 3D game is. Like in the 3D game, there is no success chance. You go out, you mine, you find stuff. The success chance represents that on a larger scale. If you're heading out and you specifically want to find something, you may not find it. You'll find other stuff, you'll mine other stuff, you'll interact with things. But that is, in the 3D game, your success chance is more related to things like the moment you wanted to head out, did there happen to be a sandstorm going on? Or did you get lost and turned around? Or did you not bring enough oxygen with you, etc.? So those effects don't carry over to the 3D game. However, we are looking at the buildings that people build in the 3D game, giving them an option to place those, the buildings that they build on the MCC, giving them an option to place them in the 3D game and have some utility to them as well. However, it won't be the same it won't be the exact same utility, as success chance as a concept doesn't exist in the 3D game. How will I rent my land to others? And how will I charge others to rent my land? Those are systems that will be implemented in the land governance UI, and that will be on the MCC. However, the exact method of how you will be receiving the money from the transaction and stuff like that hasn't been finalized, and that's probably something that will go through a few stages of iteration. As you all saw with vehicle renting, we got lots of feedback on being able to cancel renting, or people accidentally renting vehicles for the wrong tasks and stuff like that, and needing more utility in the system, which we've added and are continuing to add. So I'm sure that in a similar fashion, there'll be iterations on how we deal with renting lands. Can I embed a URL into my land so that visitors can click on it and be displayed in the browser? We are looking at different ways to embed URLs or images, stuff like that, in game, primarily for showing images on like walls and holograms and stuff like that. So yes, it's something that's it's still in the early design stages, and I'm not sure how exactly it'll be implemented. But yes, we want to allow players to be able to express themselves or their businesses or whatever they want to via the 3D game. Is there a relationship between the resources explored in the MCC and the resources that can be mined in the 3D game and a single piece of land? IG only resource explored by the MCC estimated. No. So as I understand the question, they're asking the resources that are on your land in the MCC that you've explored, those 6 slots, are they is that limitation shared in the 3D game? And no. Those resources are what is the most common, the most easily accessible resources on your land. But in the 3D game, you can find all of the resources. So even if you own a land that in the MCC just has 6, just Mars clay everywhere, that doesn't mean in the 3D game you won't find iron and aluminum and uranium and gold. And no, you'll still have an even access and distribution to those resources in the 3D game. But as we said, we use the MCC and these systems as a simplified representation of how a simplified representation of how progression in the 3D game worked, but being very careful to limit its scope, so that mining in the 3D game would never be superseded by mining the MCC, because that wouldn't pay off for any of us. We all want people playing the game and engaging, and that's how we have a nice fluid economy. Mining in the MCC just takes a lot less player time, or user time, I should say. Can I exchange resources between lands I own? Yes. Yeah. In the 3D game, can I rent out vehicles and colonists? Yes. We'll probably expand the MCC renting system to apply to both 3D game and MCC. So yeah, I'd expect to see that in an expansion of that already existing functionality. Okay, so next first question. How many colonists will be allowed to play multiplayer on one lot? I assume that, like, for one land plot. There isn't going to be a hard limitation, but past a certain point, for performance reasons, we'd probably need to start instancing player interaction. So by that, I mean that everyone would be playing on the same lot, but maybe everyone doesn't see everyone else. But that is far later thing for us to be addressing in the multiplayer launches, as that's optimization, and early optimization is kind of pointless here. We need to see how often does it happen, because it shouldn't be a problem if we're at like under 200 people on a land plot. If as we get more over that, then we'll need to start looking at different optimization options, which are the same thing used in every online and MMO type game. So it's not a unique problem to solve. We just will see how much of a solution we need as we go. Will this be a demo site? Will this be will the first version of multiplayer be a demo site, or will you randomly choose a site from our community and build on it? Undecided yet. The very first version will probably be a demo site. Like we'll pick a land plot and use the geometry and stuff like that of that land plot, but it will be wiped a few times. So all the buildings built there will be reset, and players will rebuild on it and so forth. So I think it's fairer to consider it a demo site. If I build my own building, who will be able to remake and destroy it? That's a concept I've kind of touched on already, on different ways to interact with the construction totems and lock-in and land ownership, land governance UI. But I think in the first version of multiplayer that we launch, it probably wouldn't have any limitations. And then we'll experiment with options as we go. Do players without land have a chance of trespassing on another land and build secretly there? Or will there be some wall that you can't go through? The moving between lands has a loading screen, because otherwise like you'd be loading the entire surface of Mars, or you need to be persistently loading it all, which adds a lot of development complications. So what we're doing is each land will have a loading screen between them, and if the owner of the land only allows people who are whitelisted to join, and you try and enter and you're not on the whitelist, you wouldn't make it in. However, this comes back to the topic of, what do you guys want? Do you guys want people to be able to sneak into your land and have to and have some gameplay related to that? Obviously, someone sneaking into your land and like breaking into your base and stealing all of your money, like that's not good. Like that we don't want. But maybe there's some fun in between balance where people could sneak into your land, and as long as they're not spotted by drones or search towers, they can mine there. But if they are spotted, they get kicked out. Like they I don't know, or maybe like the colonists that you own as AI with guns will run and like fight them off your land. And that way, like the landowner isn't actually losing anything. And at the same time, it kind of makes a fun back and forth where the landowner has to build defenses and like and scouting units and have like a barracks with their troops and make sure all the colonists are armed, and then stuff like that. So as I said, whatever ideas you guys have, share them in the gameplay ideas. And even if it's an idea you've mentioned before, that's fine. Like share it again, get some free buildings, and we're all building this together. So whatever direction we all want to go, like we need to be talking, we need to be communicating, and let's hear your ideas, even if they're crazy. Share them. I always say like there's never a bad idea when you're just brainstorming. Will there be markers that can be added to the map in case you forget where you build? Yes, I think actually the current live version should have them, but they may be bugged. They were working at some point in time, so if they're not working right now, that's probably a bug. And I think with that, we've come to the end of the questions on on Discord, and I need to head off to another meeting, as unfortunately this was meant to be a bit of just a shorter sneak peek, and people had a lot of awesome questions. So yeah. Okay, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming, and I look forward to playing Mars 4 with you all on the same plot of land and building together and stuff. The first version, I believe I mentioned this already, but I can't remember right now. The first version of multiplayer we're looking at releasing before summer. And yeah, I'll see you guys on Mars. Thank you all for joining me. And remember, please share any and all ideas that you have on our Discord ideas for Mars 4 channel, and win some blueprints in the process. Thank you very much, guys. Bye.